What I'm going to talk to you guys about is room time and blanket time, which is what I just mentioned it the other day, and a couple of you were like, what is that? Can you explain that more? So, for starters, I didn't come up with the idea myself at all. When I was a new mom and trying to figure out how to sleep train, or if we were going to sleep train, if we were going to do cry it out, if, we were just going to like co-sleep or bed share, I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. And like I've kind of told you guys, I fall in the middle on a lot of things that are like, the mom spectrum of like you're over here in crunchy mom world or you're over here in conventional mom world. I tend to like fall right in the middle. So my strategy is always kind of like half and half. I don't really identify with like one side or the other. I was talking to my younger sister who doesn't have kids, and she was like, I did not like realize there's so much drama in the world of moms. And I'm like, no, dude, like you really don't know. It's like people are out for blood if you don't parent like them. So I hope when you come here, I might not do everything the same as you, or my advice might not align with whatever you do in your household, but know that I'm not trying to like say my way is the best. It's just what's worked here, and I tend to fall somewhere in the middle on most topics. So anyways, sleep training. I didn't know what we were going to do with my first. We lived in a one-bedroom house whenever she was born, so it was crowded. She was in our bedroom, obviously, because it was one bedroom. So we, I got tired of her sleeping in our bed because I have back and pelvic issues, and it was uncomfortable for me to sleep with her. So I ended up looking into sleep training, definitely as a big skeptic. And one of my husband's cousins recommended this book. And I really liked the book because it wasn't so like one way or the other. It was a true resource for like using your mom gut and having a gentle approach to sleep training your child. So anyways, it's a dated book. This is it. You might have heard of it. It's called Baby Wise. When you read it, I mean, it definitely is like an 80s and 90s book. So there's some things that don't apply to parenting now. There's some things that you're going to read in there that may be a little different. But overall, the information in this book was really good. I picked it up on eBay for a couple dollars, and I took a lot away from it. So then I realized that it was a series, and so Baby Wise is the first book, and then there's Baby Wise 2, and Pre-Toddlerhood, that one. Then there's Toddler Wise. There's a bunch of them. And Potty Wise and Preschool Wise. And I flew through them, actually. It's hard for me to get into a book, but if it's a topic that I'm interested in, I can read a lot. And so I picked all of these up on eBay used for a couple dollars each. I did not buy any of them new. This was the first parenting books I ever invested in. I didn't buy birth books or parenting books until I got hooked on this series, but I felt like the information in them kind of fell somewhere in the middle like me, so I was happy with that. So with sleep training, it was kind of a middle ground. It really taught you like cues from your children, what certain things meant, things that I might not have known without reading. And so I liked that. When I started to read the Toddler Wise and the Pre-Toddler Wise book, that's when I picked up on the concept of room time and blanket time. And I loved that because at the time I had, let's see here, how old were they? They were probably like, one was a little, like 6 months old, and one was nearing 2, or a little over 2. So they were pretty close in age, and I was finding myself in a complete state of chaos, like that mom mode where it's like, what is going on around here? You're just trying to get by till bedtime. Not that these days don't ever happen. There are days where I'm like short-tempered and whatever, but it was like every day was like that, and I felt like life was so out of control with them. I stay home, and so there was no like take a break from them. It was constant, like 24/7 duty, and like thankfully we had established a good sleep routine at that time, but I didn't know how to structure their day, and I didn't realize how much they were capable of either at such a young age. So this book really helped me to realize, like, yeah, they're only 2, but if you give them guidance and like teach them how to play independently, they're completely capable of doing it. And one of the things that I thought when I started reading was like, my kids don't have a problem playing. Like, they'll go in their room and play, but they were doing it on their schedule. They were just dumping everything out. Everything was a mess. I was having to clean up. So this method kind of structures that time, I guess. So yeah, these 2 books, I would definitely pick them up, pre-toddler and toddler-wise. And like I said, you can get them used somewhere, probably really cheap. But basically, room time is just that time in their room to play alone. When we started, it was completely alone. Now it's with a sibling, usually, because I have 3 toddlers. So I don't have, like, they don't each have their own room. So they don't get individual playtime as often as they maybe would if they each had their own room. Like, if they each had their own room, I'd probably split them up for this. But since they don't, they all go together. I set a timer for an hour, and they play for that hour solid. It usually, for us, works well around 10 in the morning. Now, there's only 2 of them in there during the school year because our oldest is in preschool until noon. So they'll go play, and they know they don't get to come out till the bell rings. And that is awesome because I have a baby gate on their room. Here we go. Okay, so you can see right there's their bedroom door. That's their baby gate. So I can hear them, can look out here and see what I'm doing if I'm doing something in the living room. They can hear me, but there's separation. There's only so much they can get into in there. And then they don't just have free reign of the room. So their room is pretty organized. I could go in there, but my phone's on the charger. I'll try to snap a picture of their closet for you guys at some point. But all their toys in their room, for the most part, are up on shelves up high. And then I get down one thing for them to play with during room time. So a lot of times they play with their little people town because they have like the barn and the castle and the house, and then all their little people. So that's one of the things that they really like to do, and that works out good for multiple kids because they can each have like their own little house going and their own little people, and they're not fighting. And they do learn how to work it out and squabble it out and share amongst themselves. So we didn't start at 1 hour. We started at like something ridiculous, like 15 minutes. Because, the second you shut the gate, the panic ensues. Like, where are you going? Why can't we dump everything out in this room? So there was some, like, pre-organization and pre-planning that went into getting the room ready for them to do this. And then getting the timer, of course. And so then, like, after they started doing good with the 15 minutes and they were, like, chill, I added 5 to 10 minutes, and we did that until we worked up to an hour. Now, sometimes when we get to the end of the hour, they're not ready to come out. Usually they are. Sometimes they're not. If they're not, I leave them. But that gives me time to do chores, work in my office. Like, if I need a minute, I have a minute. So I get that in the morning, and then they nap in the afternoon, and then they go outside usually. So our backyard is fenced. That's a lifesaver. I know that not everybody has that situation, but I can just kick them outside. I didn't always have that situation, and obviously when they were littler, they needed more supervision out there. But I just kick them outside in the afternoon, and then a lot of my day is open to what I need to accomplish because, like I've told you guys, I do work from home. I do need built-in, like, office hours, and I used to do everything after they went to bed, and the more times I've been pregnant, the more little babies I've had, even though I am naturally a night owl, I can't stay up as late as I'd like. So that's why we just finished the basement playroom area so I can kick them down there in the afternoon instead. And then the other thing that is the blanket time. And that I was using when I cooked dinner, and I got away from it after preschool started. And actually, now that we have the playroom, I think I'll probably come back to it. But I loved this, and My older two will get the hang of it pretty easy when we started again. It was harder to implement than room time because room time, there's a gate, there's a boundary, it's easy. Blanket time takes a lot more patience and a lot more coaching, but once they get the hang of it, like I had the girls in a good routine with it, and it was amazing. So, really, I started it even with the babies when they were like, 6, 7 months old, sitting up, that kind of thing. And they would go in a playpen instead of on a blanket. And then once they got older, they would transition out of the playpen onto the blanket. But all you do is lay a blanket out on the floor and, again, set the timer. You have to start with a smaller increment with the blanket time. And they get one toy or one type of toy, not necessarily one item, but like one type of toy that they're playing with or activity, like if you're going to give them a couple puzzles or whatever. And that's what they do during that stretch of time. So I was using that while I cooked dinner, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of times right now I'm using the TV. I get tired of listening to the TV. It doesn't bother my husband, but like I can only listen to so many freaking nursery rhymes before I'm like, throw the TV out the window. I don't care what they do. Shut it off. So I do need to get back to this, but just lay the blankets out. They all have like kind of their separate space, and they're not allowed off that blanket without asking permission or, out of the playpen until the timer rings. It doesn't have to be mean or traumatic, and they actually end up liking it a lot, I've noticed, because they get their own thing to play with and they don't have to share, and they're not allowed on each other's blankets, so that my older two really like it for that reason, because that's like their time to pick a toy that they don't have to share with anybody. So they actually look forward to it. So I think that is something that we're going to re-implement, but that's kind of the basic structure. If you guys have any questions about room time or blanket time, I'm happy to answer them. Like I said, it's basically just the consistency of doing it like every weekday. You don't have to do it on the weekend, but I notice when my kids know what's coming next and they know that they have those like built-in points in the day, and their day is like, okay, you guys have had an hour doing this, like we're switching to this thing now. They're like calmer, more collected, they have more variety in their day, they're not bored, they're not bothering me. So I think it's a good thing. But yeah, if you have any questions, ask me, I'll be happy to answer them. But I also suggest, if it's something you're really looking to implement in your day, that you pick up those books and check those out. So anyways, ask away in my stories, and I will be happy to hop on here and answer. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Talk to you later.